You receive 3 extremely rare gifts from God, but you don't know it yet. There is something quietly miraculous happening inside you right now, even if you don't feel it, even if you've never believed in miracles. There are gifts divine, rare, incomprehensibly powerful, that were placed in the center of your being long before you were born. But here's the twist: you were never told. No one handed you a map. No one said, "Here, this is where your treasure is buried." And so, most people walk through life unaware that they are carrying something priceless. They chase money, fame, validation, love, looking everywhere outside themselves for what was hidden within all along. You may be doing this right now, but you're here, you're listening, and that's no accident. Because what I'm about to tell you may not just change how you live, it may shift how you exist. Let me take you back to something ancient. Before you were even a thought in your parents' minds, before your body was formed, there was a divine whisper, a blueprint etched into the very core of your soul. In that moment, 3 spiritual gifts were embedded into you. Not rewards, not privileges, gifts, but not just any gifts. These are the kind that only activate when your soul is ready. When your identity begins to crack, when your routines start to feel like cages, when the life you built no longer fits the size of your spirit. If you've been feeling that subtle inner unrest, that quiet dissatisfaction with what everyone else calls success, that deep longing for something real, then you're already closer to these gifts than you know.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The first gift is not something you do, it's something you remember. It's the gift of divine perception. It awakens not with effort, but with surrender. You begin to see differently, not just with your eyes, but with your soul. You start noticing things others ignore, the way someone's smile doesn't match their energy, the way a place feels heavy even when it looks beautiful, and the way your heart tugs when a decision is wrong, even if it makes sense on paper. This perception is subtle at first, like a whisper you can't quite hear. But the more you listen, the louder it becomes. And then one day you just know. You know when to say yes, even when it scares you. You know when to walk away, even when it hurts. You know when something is off, even if you can't explain it. And the crazy thing is, people will start asking you for advice not because of what you say, but because of what you see. But here's the kicker: the world doesn't train us for this kind of vision. It trains us to doubt, to analyze, to rationalize away the voice of God within us. So what happens? We numb it. We call it overthinking. We silence it with logic. We bury it under busyness. But the chosen ones, the ones who are brave enough to feel, know that this perception is not a burden. It's a compass. And once you start trusting it, life becomes less about control and more about alignment. You stop chasing things that aren't meant for you. You stop forcing doors that were never yours. You begin to move with the current of something so much bigger than yourself. And that is when the second gift begins to awaken. This second gift is more radical. It's the gift of spiritual resilience, and it only activates under pressure. If you've been through pain, if you've been cracked open by loss, betrayal, confusion, or failure, then congratulations, you've already been initiated. This gift doesn't make your life easier. It makes you stronger, not in the surface way people talk about being strong, but in the real way, the kind of strength that doesn't shout. The kind that sits in silence and still knows who it is. The kind that isn't afraid to break and rebuild. This resilience is not about pretending to be okay, but it's about knowing you'll rise even when you're not. It's about realizing that what broke you also revealed you. That every scar holds a secret instruction. That your pain wasn't punishment, it was preparation. You begin to understand that nothing in your life went to waste. That every detour, every heartbreak, every no was a disguised redirection from a God who sees what you cannot. And then one day, in the middle of your ordinary life, you realize something extraordinary. You've become unshakable. Not because you've avoided the storm, but because you've learned how to stand in it with open arms. And people will ask you how you're so peaceful, so grounded, so clear, and you won't be able to explain it in words. Because it's not intellectual, it's embodied. You've tasted something eternal, and now everything else feels small. But there is still one more gift, the rarest of all, and most people never activate it. Not because it's hidden, but because it's terrifying. It's the gift of divine creation, the ability to shape reality from the inside out, but not manifesting in the superficial sense, not vision boards and affirmations. I mean the raw, sacred power to bring something into this world that did not exist before just by aligning with your soul. This gift turns your thoughts into blueprints, your emotions into fuel, your actions into sacred rituals. When you understand this, you don't just live, you create. You create healing in a family that's been broken for generations. You create art that wakes people up. You create movements that shift culture. You create silence in chaos, peace in pain. You create new timelines, new futures. And it's not because you're special. It's because you remembered who you are. But here's the twist. This gift only activates when you stop pretending. When you drop the masks. When you let go of performing for a world that is addicted to illusions. When you stop asking, what will they think? And start asking, what does my soul know? That's when it begins. That's when creation flows through you like a river that cannot be dammed. Suddenly, life responds. Opportunities align. People appear. Synchronicities multiply. Not because you're lucky, but because you're in tune. So I really ask you, what would happen if you stopped waiting to be chosen and started living like you already were? What would your days look like if you believed, deeply believed, that God planted holy gifts inside you, and the only thing stopping their activation was your forgetting? You already have the perception. You already have the resilience. You already have the power to create. These are not things you earn. These are things you uncover. And the uncovering begins now. The divine blueprint why you were never meant to be normal. There's a reason you've always felt different, even if you tried to hide it. A sense that you were somehow out of sync with the world around you, not broken, not wrong, but deeply misaligned with the noise and the rush and the shallow conversations. You've probably asked yourself, why does it feel like I'm here for something more? That's not ego speaking. That's your soul whispering. That's the divine blueprint within you trying to surface through the layers of conditioning, trauma, and doubt. Most people are taught to suppress that feeling. Society tells us to normalize ourselves, to blend in, to be realistic. But what if I told you that feeling of being different isn't a flaw to fix? It's the first proof that you're carrying something rare. You see, God doesn't place extraordinary gifts in ordinary paths. If you've walked through pain, if you've battled with isolation, if you've experienced loss that felt like it shattered your being, it wasn't punishment. It was precision. It was preparation. Those moments weren't designed to break you. They were designed to strip away the noise so the truth could echo louder. And what is that truth? That you were never meant to be normal. You were meant to be aligned with a higher order, aligned with a deeper rhythm, aligned with the divine intelligence that beats your heart without you even thinking about it. This is the divine blueprint. It's not a plan you write, it's a pattern you uncover. It's unique to you, and it speaks in a language most people have forgotten how to hear: intuition, synchronicity, dreams, sudden inner knowing. These are not coincidences, they are coordinates. When you feel pulled towards something and you don't know why, that's not foolishness. That's a soul signal. And every time you ignore those signals, life gets harder. You feel stuck, disconnected, anxious for reasons you can't explain. But when you listen, truly listen, life starts to open. Not because it suddenly becomes easy, but because it becomes true. And there is nothing more liberating than walking in truth. But truth demands courage. You can't follow your blueprint and follow the crowd at the same time. At some point, you'll have to choose. You'll have to let go of what's familiar in order to step into what's divine. That's where most people stop. That's where they say, maybe later, or this is too risky. But you're still here. You're still listening, still feeling that tug in your chest. That's not random. That's the second stage of awakening. The moment when your soul starts to take the lead, even if your mind doesn't fully understand. And here's the wild thing. When you start to honor that divine pull, the universe starts rearranging itself. The right people show up. The opportunities begin to align. Not because you're forcing it, but because you're finally matching the frequency of your own design. And when you live from that place, not only do you unlock your own gifts, you become a mirror for others to do the same. Your life becomes a transmission, not through words, but through being. People will feel safer around you without knowing why. They'll feel inspired without you trying to motivate them. That's what happens when you live according to the blueprint God placed inside you. You don't just find your path, you become a path for others. But let me be clear, this isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest. The divine blueprint doesn't unfold through achievement, it unfolds through alignment. That means you'll still make mistakes. You'll still doubt. You'll still fall. But every time you choose to return to your truth, to trust your inner knowing over the noise of the world, you strengthen your connection to the gifts within you. And slowly you realize that you were never lost. You were just layered with expectations, fears, generational wounds. But beneath it all, the blueprint was always there, waiting for you to remember. So I ask you, what parts of yourself have you been hiding to feel accepted? What dreams have you silenced because they didn't fit the mold? And what would happen if you let your soul speak louder than your fear? You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to be willing to listen, to lean in, to believe that your inner voice is not just valid, it's divine. You are not here by accident. You are not listening to this by coincidence. You are standing on the edge of awakening, holding gifts you've barely begun to understand. But they're real. They're ready. And this moment is your invitation to begin. Cracked open on purpose, why your pain was never meant to destroy you. We don't talk enough about the sacred function of pain. Not the poetic kind that's easy to write about, but the kind that breaks you open in the middle of the night. The kind that leaves you breathless, questioning everything you thought you knew. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid it, numb it, run from it. But what if the pain you've experienced wasn't a detour but the doorway? What if it was never meant to destroy you, but to reveal you? Pain, in its purest form, is a spiritual scalpel. It cuts away the false layers. It exposes what's real. It doesn't ask for your permission. It doesn't care about your timeline. It comes when it comes, and when it does, it forces you to stop pretending. The image you've been holding up, the role you've been playing, the version of you that was designed to be accepted, pain dismantles all of that. And for a moment, you feel like you're falling apart. But you're not. You're being reborn. And the deeper the pain, the deeper the rebirth. If you've lived through something that shattered you, grief, betrayal, failure, illness, the kind of loss that changes your breathing, you need to hear this. It wasn't meaningless. It wasn't random. It was a sacred initiation. Because only through breaking can light enter the places you've kept hidden, even from yourself. The ancient mystics knew this. The desert fathers and mothers, the monks, the prophets, they all spoke of this sacred breaking. The dark night of the soul. The spiritual fire that burns away what is false to make room for what is true. You've known it too. Maybe you didn't have the words for it, but you felt it. That moment when nothing made sense anymore. When you couldn't go back, but didn't know how to move forward. That was the threshold. The moment the divine reached into your life and said, "It's time." And here's the paradox. The greatest spiritual gift often comes wrapped in suffering. We pray for clarity and we get confusion. We ask for strength and we get broken. We ask for purpose and we lose everything that gave us identity. Why? Because God doesn't give answers, He gives awakening. And awakening rarely feels good. At first it feels like dying. You lose your illusions. You lose your attachments. You lose the comfort of who you used to be. But in that losing, you find what can never be taken from you. You find your essence, your core, your unshakable self. This is where one of the rarest gifts begins to emerge, the gift of transmutation. But the ability not just to survive pain, but to alchemize it. To take what tried to bury you and turn it into gold. To take your story and make it medicine. Most people don't know how powerful this is. They think healing is about forgetting, moving on, pretending it didn't happen. But you, if you're brave enough, will learn that healing is not erasing the wound, it's honoring it. Looking it in the eye and saying, "You didn't break me. You built me." And once you do that, something incredible happens. Your pain becomes your platform. Your scars become your scripture. People will feel your depth, your compassion, your wisdom, and they'll be drawn to it. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because your energy carries the frequency of truth. And in a world drowning in distraction and performance, truth is magnetic. But this doesn't mean you'll never feel pain again. It means you'll relate to it differently. You'll stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this awakening in me?" That question alone can change your entire life. Because now, every challenge becomes a teacher. Every loss becomes a guide. Every storm becomes a mirror reflecting what you're still holding onto that no longer serves you. And eventually you'll look back at the moments that almost killed you and whisper, "Thank you." Not because you enjoyed them, not because you would wish them on anyone else, but because they cracked you open in a way nothing else could. They stripped you of the unnecessary, and in doing so, they revealed the eternal. So I ask you, what if the worst thing that ever happened to you was the very thing God used to awaken your deepest gift? What if your heartbreak was the key to your compassion? What if your failure was the seed of your purpose? What if the pain you've been hiding from is actually holding the map to your power? You are not broken. You are not too far gone. You are not late. You are being forged. And the fire you've walked through is not proof of your weakness, it's proof of your calling. The Creator within how to activate the divine force that shapes your reality. There is a moment in the spiritual journey where everything shifts, not because the world outside has changed, but because you have. You begin to realize that the same divine energy that orchestrates galaxies, that paints sunsets, that breathes life into the trees and tides is quietly humming inside of you. You are not just a witness to creation. You are a participant, a co-creator, and the most astonishing part, you always have been. But no one told you. No one told you that the thoughts you think are not passive, that the emotions you feel are not irrelevant, that your presence, your energy, literally shapes the field around you. You were taught to react to life, not create it. You were taught to wait for permission, for signs, for someone else to say, "Go." But what if you already have everything you need to build a life that feels like an answered prayer? The third and final gift you've been carrying lightly without even knowing is the gift of divine creation. Not in the metaphorical sense, but in the most literal, energetic, and practical way. You have the power to speak reality into form, to shift timelines, to call in the people, experiences, and opportunities that match the frequency of your soul. But here's the catch. This gift only activates when you begin to live in alignment. That's the secret most people miss. You can't create from your soul while living from your fear. You can't unlock divine power while wearing a mask. You must return to your essence, to the truth of who you are beneath the programming, the pain, the pressure to be anything other than authentic. Think about it. How many times have you felt a desire rise within you, something wild, something beautiful, something that made your heart race, but you immediately shut it down? You told yourself it was unrealistic, irresponsible, impossible. But what if that desire was divine? What if desire itself is the voice of God speaking through your soul? Not every fleeting craving, but the deep, holy ones. The ones that don't go away. The ones that whisper to you in quiet moments, asking you to become more than what the world expects. Those desires are not random. They are instructions, codes, blueprints for the reality you were born to create. But to unlock them, you must first believe that you are worthy of them. That's the wall for most. Not lack of talent, not lack of time, but lack of self-worth. You've been conditioned to shrink, to settle, and to survive on the crumbs of your own brilliance. But God did not place these gifts in you to tease you. They were given to be used. And the moment you truly decide to stop apologizing for being powerful, everything begins to shift. Your energy changes. Your boundaries become sacred. Your choices become intentional. And creation begins. Creation starts with clarity. You must get clear on what you actually want, not what you think you should want, not what others expect, but what makes your soul breathe deeper, what excites you and terrifies you at the same time. That's your edge. That's where your power lives. And from that place you begin to imagine, not as a fantasy, but as a rehearsal. You speak it. You feel it. You show up as if it's already true. And the universe, which is listening at all times, responds. That's not wishful thinking. That's frequency. That's alignment. That's divine law. But don't expect it to be instant. Creation is not magic, it's mastery. But mastery takes courage. You will be tested. Old fears will rise. Old patterns will resurface. But this time you meet them differently. You meet them with awareness. You choose to respond from your soul, not your wounds. And every time you do, you strengthen your gift. You become a living portal, an open channel for divine energy to move through you and take shape in this world. And then the miracles begin. Quiet ones at first. A conversation that opens a door. A stranger who speaks exactly what you needed to hear. A sudden idea that changes everything. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. Evidence that your field is shifting. That you are remembering who you are. And when you remember who you are, you stop begging life to change you command it to. Not with arrogance, but with reverence. You understand that your life is your canvas and God gave you the brush. So I ask you with everything in me, if you knew that your thoughts were shaping your future, would you still think the way you do? If you knew that your energy was a prayer, would you still carry that doubt, that fear, that self-hate? Or would you begin right now to create something holy out of your existence? You are not here to simply survive. You are not here to fit in. You are here to build, and to heal, to remember, to awaken, and to leave this world better than you found it. Not by force, not by perfection, but by living so fully in your own light that others remember theirs. This is the final gift, the gift that changes everything. You are the creator you've been waiting for. Now act like it. Speak like it. Live like it. Because the world doesn't need more followers. It needs more rememberers. And you, yes, you have just remembered who you are. Now go create what only you can.